How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, Sundays with Andrew Zarian. And it is July 24, 2025, and Hulk Hogan has passed away. Woke up to the news first thing this morning. Absolutely cannot believe it. And this show today, pretty sure it's going to be all Hulk Hogan. And obviously, Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, a controversial character in a lot of ways. And our job here on the show is to talk about the history of wrestling. And so there's going to be a lot of talk about the good and the bad. It is impossible to tell the story of American professional wrestling without Hulk Hogan. And it's impossible to tell the story of his life without talking about the controversial aspects of it. His final wrestling appearance, he was heavily booed, and that was the last that we saw publicly of Hulk Hogan in professional wrestling. So there's a lot to talk about here today. We're going to do the news aspect when we come back from the break, and we've also got tons and tons and tons of stories from you about your memories of the character Hulk Hogan. So we're going to be doing that today. If you want to send anything to the show, you're welcome to do so. Send it to Brian at WrestlingObserver.com and put Hulk Hogan in the subject line, and we'll get into a bunch of those today. And Tom Lawler, Filthy Tom, is going to be joining us as well, and he actually has a tie into Hulk Hogan. So we'll get into that as well here today. But a lot to get into. We'll tell you everything that happened with Hulk coming up after the break, and then get into everybody's feedback. I got a lot of thoughts about Hogan as well and his legacy. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful. Granny, how are you feeling?
I'm good. Set up an exercise program.
What kind of exercises are you doing?
Well, for one thing, just sitting.
I got that one down. Sounds like my exercise program.
Your exercise is just sitting.
Who was the most inspiring person you have ever met?
Granny of late.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah.
I got nothing better.
I'll have to say myself.
Okay. What's the best part about having a massive heart attack?
Not dying, I guess.
There you go. Good answer.
Jeez, what a question.
Which vegetable would you send to outer space for aliens to try?
Broccoli.
How do you have that so quickly?
Ridiculously fast answer.
You've thought about this before.
It was at WrestleMania, the one in Phoenix. I can't remember which one.
I gotta go. I have to sneeze.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye, Granny. Granny laid on the guilt trip to end all guilt trips. Sorry, I wrote. Forgot we going 30 minutes late. And then you began. Gee, thanks. 30 minutes late. Was not told. Aggravating. I guess my time doesn't mean anything. Jeez.
Wow.
Golly. You happy, Granny? You made me so angry. You're over there snickering, laughing at what you've done. God.
Good.
You're going to have a heart attack.
Anything
like
else?
Granny.
Yeah.
Goody.
Goody, she says. The news of you having a...
What
Cardiac
medication
arrest.
did they give you? To make the heart blacker? You enjoying yourself, quietly giggling over there? All right, Granny. What have you got today?
Nothing.
All right, we'll see you later.
You better have something after all that.
Liv Morgan versus Ray Ripley. Just recently.
That's the date.
You told me that you watched CM Punk and Drew and didn't watch any more of the show, but this was on the show.
I know. I watched this one. Because I wanted to see what happened with Dominic. In which Midwestern city did rapper Eminem grow up?
Detroit.
Eminem?
8 Mile.
Okay, we had a new segment, Granny reads rapper names. That's
I'm an M.
I am an M.
Eminem.
Yep.
Eminem.
Ryan Adams covered an entire Taylor Swift album. What is the name of that album?
Ryan Adams.
1989.
Yeah.
That's the right answer, dum-dum.
Excuse me.
Okay, now I'll quit picking on Brian and go away.
Thanks, Granny. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Filthy Tom Lawler's joining us here today. And, man, I woke up this morning and here we are. Holy smokes. Tom, you have a slight tie-in to Hulk Hogan?
Yes, I actually believe that I would be the first UFC fighter in history to walk out to Hulk Hogan's theme, the Real American song by Rick Derringer, as at UFC Fight Night 20 in very close proximity to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. This fight took place in Fairfax, Virginia, January 11th, 2010, as I took on Aaron Simpson, and I did indeed walk out with the American flag in tow, with multiple colored boas around my neck to that Real American theme, and I did the old Hulkster, wave your hand around in a circle, put it up to your ear, and I tell you, Brian, the crowd in the Patriot Center in Fairfax, Virginia that night went wild, as they so often did during that song when the Hulkster made his entrance. So, yeah, a very small tie-in, of course, in the grand scheme of things, of one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
Well, you know,
Maybe
this
the
morning,
most.
yeah, I woke up and I think I woke up like right when the news broke. It had been just like seconds earlier, I think. And I just got started getting bombarded with texts. And then, like, all morning, I've been doing media. I've got, I think, ABC News Live at 2, and I might be on NPR tomorrow. And, I mean...
You look like you've aged decades.
I feel like I've
morning.
aged a lot. But, like, everybody knows Hulk Hogan. And you mentioned famous wrestlers. And I was thinking that if we exclude Dwayne Johnson, okay, because he is probably the most famous wrestler of all time because he was a movie star that ended up being the biggest movie star in the history. Like in Hollywood, I shouldn't say in history because that's not true, but like, you know, there have been years where who's the most famous actor? It's Dwayne Johnson. What actor made the most money in Hollywood this year? It's Dwayne Johnson. So if you look at it from that perspective, The Rock he's the most famous wrestler of all time because he's the most famous person that's ever worked in wrestling. But if you exclude that, if we look at the professional wrestling business, okay, who was the biggest wrestling star of all time? The three are Hulk Hogan, Ricky Dozan, and El Santo, okay? Ricky Dozan, and really, in a lot of ways, you know, Ricky Dozan and Hogan, I can make a comparison because what happened with Ricky Dozan was World War II had ended, and, you know, Japanese morale after the end of World War II, I mean, it was a rebuilding period, and this guy came along, Ricky Dozan, and he was a famous Japanese professional wrestler, and they... You know, on national television, when national television first exploded in the early 50s, he was on national television, and they would bring in big Americans, and he'd smash them. And, like, culturally, this is not just like a pro wrestling thing. Culturally, this meant so much for Japan. And these matches that Ricky Dozan had, I mean, like, the number of people in Japan that watched these matches... was absolutely astounding. And it was such a big deal culturally in Japan in the early 50s in the aftermath of World War II that history books, like I'm not talking, you read a wrestling history book or weekly pro wrestler or whatever. I'm talking the history books that little children read in 3rd grade or whatever. They told the story of Ricky Dozan. He was in history books. And it's the same thing with El Santo, in Mexico. I mean, he is a cultural icon, not a professional wrestling icon, a cultural icon. And I think of all of the American professional wrestlers who have ever lived, I don't think as a result of pro wrestling, any of them are more famous than Hulk Hogan. None of them drew more fans over the course of their careers, including, I think, Jim Londos. None of them drew more than Hulk Hogan. We're talking, The Rock and Steve Austin. I mean, if you look at Hogan from, his late 70s, early 80s in the AWA, and then going to WWF, and then, going to WCW afterwards and all the money that they drew, I mean, he's the most famous wrestler of all time. Everybody knew the name Hulk Hogan. And a lot of it was, like with Ricky Dozan, because, the national television, Hulk Hogan became a massive star in the early 80s. And, the Rock and Wrestling Connection and the rise of MTV on cable. And then they had, the Saturday Night's Main Event and then the main event, and the Saturday Night Live time slot. Saturday Night Live in the 80s they wouldn't have a show and Saturday Night's Main Event would be there. And that match with Hulk Hogan, with Andre the Giant, first it was the Pontiac Silverdome match for WrestleMania 3. Which, let me tell you something about that match, okay? Do you realize that tickets did not go on? They didn't even have the building announced, and they did not put tickets on sale until, 6-8 weeks before the show, because we went back and we were watching, the early 1987, primetime wrestling. And, nowadays it's okay, well, WrestleMania is going to be a year and it's going to be here and tickets are going to go on sale 8 months in advance and blah, 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 blah. It was January 30th or something like that. 1987. It was Hulk Hogan and Bobby Heenan. Gene Okerlund it was Bobby and Gorilla. They were next week, we're going to announce the location of WrestleMania. They didn't even have a location, okay? And then it was the last week of January, first week of February. They announced WrestleMania at the Pontiac Silverdome. And boom, 75,000, 78,000, 80,000 tickets out the door over the course of 6 weeks for that Hulk Hogan Andre the Giant match. And then they did the second Andre the Giant Hulk Hogan match on the main event in 1988, and 33 million people watched that match. So nowadays, when you hear people and they're screaming about, Raw and Netflix and AEW and they should be doing 1.3 million or whatever, bro, this show, as you said, this show did 33 million live viewers. 33 million live viewers. At the peak of the Monday Night Wars, the peak, when Raw and Nitro were both at their peak, they combined did 11 million viewers. Combined for both shows. Raw did 6 million, WCW did 5, whatever. 11 million was the peak combined in the Monday Night Wars. And Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant did 33 million. 3 times the combined peak of the Monday Night Wars. And, of course, then, Hogan was a product of the 80s. And big, jacked up, ends up going on Arsenio Hall, claims, whatever he claimed, lied. And, he kind of...
Vitamins and prayers, brother.
Yep. He disappeared for a while. But you know what? That guy came back to WCW in 94. And, 94, 95, business started to really pick up. And Hogan was a huge part of that. Although the real turnaround was actually a Randy Savage Ric Flair feud that they took on the road that did huge business. But when that guy joined the NWO and that thing exploded, I mean, WCW started going straight up. And then, Vince realized, dude, we got to do something. And the Attitude Era came around eventually, and they went straight up. And so, whatever you want to say about Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan was the catalyst of the 80s boom and the 90s boom. And we'll talk a lot more after the break. Observer Live. Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful. We all went to the AEW Wrestle Dream pay-per-view in the Tacoma Dome. What a dump.
They've remodeled in the last 5 years.
I don't want to watch a show in the Tacoma Dome. I'm over that part of my life.
So this is all about
I
you.
want
Okay.
It is all about me. It's my show.
Yep.
Sick of these crappy dumps.
Rico. Yes. Rico Constantino.
Mm-hmm.
When Rico Constantino showed up on the screen, I almost fainted.
If you would have slapped me with a bass, I would have been less surprised.
A bass,
Yeah.
you say?
Excuse me.
You heard me.
Now, you mean the fish
Yes.
or like a bass, the instrument?
No, a bass.
Well, he would have said a bass if he meant a bass.
Shibata hooks a rear naked choke, and Shibata's shoulders were down, and the referee counted 3.
I don't care what happened in Florida in 1973.
That is an Eddie Graham babyface finish when he wanted a heel to get a fluke win.
The crowd hated it.
Hated it.
People are upset that Adam Cole's back as a babyface or whatever.
Why?
But, dude, he's been gone for a year. So they obviously want to do Adam Cole and MJF. MJF is a heel.
Mhm.
So obviously Adam Cole is coming back as a babyface.
Yes. Will Ospreay, Takeshita, and Ricochet. My rating for this match was 1 zillion stars. I believe this may be my new favorite 3-way ever. John Moxley versus Bryan Danielson.
You have to
Not a
say it in
fun
such a
match.
sad way.
Yes! It was sad. It was a sad match.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, before we even get to the post-match. The whole thing, start to finish, was sad. It was meant to bum you, the fans, out.
It worked.
It worked. It elicited emotions, which is what art is supposed to do.
It was very much like The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels when Undertaker retired him. And, that's exactly what happened, is everyone just slowly stood up and quietly, sadly walked out of the building that night.
There was one gentleman that was walking by us, and he was dripping in Bryan Danielson's merchandise.
Hmm.
And he was wailing. And he cried, forget my language, I can't believe they punked out my favorite wrestler like a bitch. And he was so
Wow.
upset.
And we go into that press conference. All I got to say about Don Callis is, man, I can't help but notice he's got a big mouth when he's got Takeshita right next to him, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
That was a scintillating question. And I think maybe after that, we're finally, the Bryan and Vinny show might actually just be the Bryan show. That was producer Rob level stuff right there. Need to work on your game a little bit. Okay. Next.
Rob's so excited and happy now. He texted me today. So it looks like I'm feuding with Don Callis. Ha ha. That's what he texted me.
That's not the way I took it at all. I looked at his wiener, and now he's mad at me. Duh.
Hey, sorry for running you over there, Tom. We'll get back to some of us here in a moment, but I do have to go back to the beginning and just... we barely even mentioned the fact that he passed away today. We've been talking about his career and everything, but essentially what was reported is that he went into cardiac arrest, and they went to his house, and there was actually a video on TMZ. Do we have to have these videos?
No, is there?
And they're taking him out of the house and doing chest compressions, and he ended up passing away. And if you recall, on this show, the last couple of days,
yesterday.
Yes. So this is what I can tell you, everybody, okay? So a couple of days ago, I got a message, and it was regarding Hulk Hogan. And essentially what the message said was, what Bubba is saying is not true, but it's bad. And, then 2 days later, he's dead, okay? And then, and everyone's like, well, I guess Bubba was right.
I mean, Jimmy Hart yesterday said Hulkster's doing phenomenal.
Yes, it was very clear that Hulk Hogan was not doing phenomenal, obviously. But what I can tell you is that the person that basically said, it's bad, but it's not as bad as Bubba is saying, this person had been around Hogan a lot. This was not somebody who had heard like a friend through a friend or something like that. And so I'm not sure exactly what happened in terms of the heart attack here today, but the way it was explained to me was, Hogan underwent a bunch of surgeries. And, even his wife had admitted, there are a lot of complications and things are rough. I think Bubba had stated that he was like in a coma. And, I was told he was not in a coma. Now, the one thing was he was sleeping a lot. Like, he was sleeping a lot. And so it's possible that, Bubba presumed that he was in a coma. But I was told that he was not in a coma. And he was unable to speak, and I think Bubba had mentioned that. So, what happened with the heart attack, I mean, we don't know. But, all of those, there had been like a lot of, and I'd mentioned this as well, there had been social media posts that were not recent. Because everybody was saying, oh, he's all over social media, he's all over social media. Those were not recent. And the impression that I was given was that, Eric Bischoff and some others as well, I mean, I don't think they thought it was like he was imminently going to die, like what happened. But, I was kind of given the impression that the Kurt Angle being brought in for Real American Freestyle was because Hogan probably was not going to be able to be making public appearances anytime in the near future. And they had the show coming up at the end of August. And so that's one of the reasons that they brought Kurt Angle in. So he'd had health issues. I mean, he'd always claimed that a lot of his back issues were the result of doing that leg drop. And that if he hadn't done the leg drop, he might not have been in this condition. And, he might be right, because I taught, it's kind of a weird tie-in, but I taught gymnastics forever, kids gymnastics. And on the trampoline, there's a move called the seat drop, which is basically a leg drop, okay? And, we were always told that whenever these kids do their seat drops, make sure they put their hands down, like by their butt, because if they don't, like their back gets all jacked up. And that's what Hogan's move was that leg drop. And he did it for years and years and years and years. And, I think most people are aware of this, but those WWF rings, back when he was legitimately on the road, like 280 to 300 days a year, it wasn't 400 like he claimed, but back when he was on the road a lot, dude, those rings had no give. And they didn't change the WWE rings until, ironically, Vince McMahon became a wrestler, and then all the rings had to be changed to be bouncier. But he was doing all those leg drops during that period, and I'm pretty sure that he probably did, like, destroy his back. And you can see, like, when I was a kid, I always heard, oh man, Hogan this would have been, I wasn't a kid, I was probably a teenager or, late teens. But, people always told me, this Hogan kind of sucks. But if you want to see Hogan when he was great, watch when he was in Japan. And so, like, he had all these matches in New Japan. He was actually the first IWGP champion.
Yeah, defeated Inoki
Yep.
by KO
Yeah.
on the floor, of all things, with the Axe Bomber.
So, yeah, but if you watch those matches in New Japan, I mean, it was a different Hogan. So, I grew up and, like, I did, till I was probably in my 30s and 40s, I believe that. And then one day, we went back and we watched all of the Saturday Night's Main Event episodes in order. And to steal a line from Hulk Hogan, brother, let me tell you, that guy could work. and he was great. This was not just Japan. You watch these Saturday night's main event matches this guy had from probably, 84, 85 through about 87. This guy was awesome. And it was probably around, 87-ish, 88, where it either was catching up to him or like he realized, what am I doing? Like, I don't need to do this. I can go out there and, cut my ear and everything like that. It was around 87, 88, 89. You could see, okay, he's either hurting or he's just like gotten a lot smarter in what he's doing in the ring. He doesn't need to do that stuff. And, even the early days of WCW, he was pretty mobile. When he first came to WCW in like 94, 95, had those matches with Flair. Like he was
Vader. You're not getting away without getting in there with Vader.
Nah, he was still pretty mobile and athletic. But, by about 97, 98, and then like 99 came, I mean, he was not moving well at all, and he didn't bump well at all. And then he came back in 2002 or 2001, 2002 when WCW died for the nostalgia run. And, man, that guy couldn't do anything. And, then as he got older, it was like, he had spinal fusion. And then, I guess he had spinal fusion at this place, and they started using him in advertising, and he claimed it wasn't with his permission. And then he, turned on him and said, it didn't work, and I'm worse now. And then, the last few years, it was like surgery, 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 surgery. And, he was in a lot of pain. And, this most recent surgery would have been only a few months ago. And,
May, I believe.
Yeah, serious complications. I mean, he was there for that Netflix debut and, seemed fine. I mean, if you would have watched that Netflix debut and the audience reaction was something different. But if you would have seen him physically there, I mean, you wouldn't be sitting here going, man, by, the end of July, he'll have passed away. But, I mean, the notable story of the Netflix debut is he was booed hard. And we never saw him again. And I'm sure that obviously part of it, I mean, he was supposed to be there all the time. This Real American Beer tie-in, I mean, he was supposed to be there all the time. And
he's been on the road. When
Yeah.
you think about it for the last couple of years. I mean, he was traveling the country doing promo work for Real American Beer. At, his advanced age, I'm sure that's not the best thing for
Well,
you.
yeah, I mean, we can talk to Lance about it, and you as well. I mean, traveling sucks. And then you add all of that travel onto all of the physical issues that he had. I mean, he was really all over the place, and he was going to be doing a lot of stuff for Real American Wrestling. I mean, this guy was hurting. And, the fans, as noted, they booed him out of the building. And all of the upcoming Hogan appearances, gone. He was supposed to be on Saturday night's main event. And remember, Jesse was they kind of had that thing. And then, well, Jesse's on the show and Hogan isn't. And then, of course, obviously he had the surgery, and they weren't going to use him after that because he was, in rough shape. But, those fans, they let their voices be heard, and the company reacted to it. I mean, they didn't just, if it were Vince, they would have just kept bringing him out because, Vince loved that kind of thing when, oh, man, that hate.
To be fair, Brian, there was a pretty big, backlash towards him by members of the roster in the media. It's not as if people stay away from it. He was kind of the butt of jokes.
No, there were a lot of talent.
From a lot of the wrestlers around that time period.
Well,
for his
yeah,
past
because
fractions.
There was obviously the situation with Bubba the Love Sponge and his wife and Gawker and that whole lawsuit, which, by the way, he was having, I believe he was having problems with money until the Gawker lawsuit, and he got $30 million, and then he was all right. But there was another incident around 2015 when that tape came out, and he had racial slurs on the tape. He basically stated I think he said I'm kind of a racist or something like that.
He said he was a racist. He was, basically cutting a promo on Brooke Hogan's boyfriend. Yeah.
So then, he did an apology to the locker room, but the apology was more like, you got to make sure what you say, brother. I mean, it was more
the
like
cameras are watching.
Yeah, it was whatever you want to say personally. What the wrestlers felt, a lot of them, was that he's not apologizing. What he's doing is he's like saying, "Don't get caught." And so there were a lot of the wrestlers that wanted nothing to do with Hogan, and obviously, as we saw in the Netflix deal, a lot of fans as well. So a lot more after the break, everybody. Observer Live. Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful. Chat GPT, Smackdown review starring Filthy Tom and Bryan Alvarez.
Welcome back, you miserable wretches, to another disaster of an episode of Figure 4 Daily, the only show on the internet that's guaranteed to make your brain rot faster than watching one of these Smackdown episodes. I'm your host, Filthy Tom Waller, joined by the man who somehow manages to be more useless than a rubber knife in a prison fight, Bryan Alvarez. What's up, Bryan?
Let's not pretend you're the shining star of this operation. You're like a broken pencil. Pointless. And I don't even know I'm still here with you. Anyway, let's get to this train wreck of a Smackdown. Spoiler alert, if you were expecting a wrestling show, you've come to the wrong place. It was like watching someone fall asleep in real time.
You should know all about falling asleep, Bryan, since you've been half dead for years now. If enthusiasm was an Olympic sport, you would get a participation medal for showing up, but still lose.
I could tell the crowd was hyped for Drew, and Nakamura's music is always a banger, but it was just nothing. It's like watching a 5-minute commercial for a product you don't even want to buy.
And I bet the only thing that was more uninspiring than this match was your entire existence. Let's move on before I fall asleep right here on this microphone.
Tom, you think because you're a former fighter, that makes you a wrestling expert? You'd probably lose in a match with a traffic cone. Look, Jade's a star, but Liv Morgan, she's the human version of a please wait screen.
Liv Morgan is about as useful as a sandbag at a swimming pool party, who's like trying to make a turkey sandwich with no bread.
It's like the crowd went from yay to who's got the remote. Can we change the channel?
Liv Morgan's biggest move is making the audience wish for better things. She's like the human version of a wet sock. Nobody wants it.
I get it, Tom. You don't like fun. You don't like energy. You don't like anything that's not just sitting on your couch in your pajamas complaining.
More of the same.
Oh, we're back to more of the same, huh? Just like your wrestling career. More of the same, but somehow still a disaster.
Well, that's it, folks. SmackDown 2025 was more like SmackDown 2005. Same old stuff, same old disappointments. Join us next time when we tear apart something else for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, next time, Tom, maybe we'll actually have some real wrestling to talk about instead of whatever disaster this was. Until then, just remember, don't listen to Tom and don't watch SmackDown unless you hate yourself.
Whatever. It's your funeral.
What? I've never been so embarrassed doing this show as I was for the last 5 minutes. God. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. I was asked on a show earlier today about Hogan's legacy, and obviously, you're not going to ever be able to talk about Hulk Hogan without talking about the bad, and but you also cannot talk about his legacy without talking about what he did for the business, and whatever you think about him, and boy, there's a lot of people thinking a lot of stuff in this chat. I mean, the fact of the matter is, none of us would be here right now without Hulk Hogan in a lot of different ways. I mean, number one, he was the centerpiece of WWF when it went national, and there's no guarantee it would have worked with anybody else. He was incredibly charismatic. he was the personification of the 80s. Just big, muscular, action, larger than life. I mean, the people went wild for this guy. Like, we'll read some of these emails. I don't think we're going to get any today. We'll try. But, like, I got so many emails of people's memories involving, like, Hogan showed up and people went, screaming, crying, blah, blah, blah. And, like, I was there for a show once where during intermission at these house shows, the ring announcer used to come out and say who was going to be at the next show. And, then you'd go buy your tickets or whatever. And, he came out and he's like, coming out of the next show, there's going to be Jimmy Superfly Snuka and the Earthquake. And then he mentioned Hulk Hogan's name. And, dude, these people, grown men, I mean, they leaped to their feet. And they started because you had to go to the box office to buy tickets. They are freaking, like the whole area just filed out to go get tickets to see Hulk Hogan. They just went wild for this guy. And then, all of you that grew up in the Monday Night Wars, I mean, Hogan was the catalyst also for the Monday Night Wars. And, wrestling business aside, you're listening to this, you're watching this because of Hogan. Because when I was a kid, my sister actually was the Hogan fan. And she had a Hogan poster. And I hated that poster. And I hated wrestling. And I hated Hulk Hogan. And I wanted nothing to do with it. I would just get furious whenever, she'd watch wrestling. So, I have some memories of stuff '88, but I wasn't, paying a lot of attention to it. And then one day, my grandmother moved up from Mexico, spoke no English. And, she sat on the couch and she would point to the TV and she would go, lucha, lucha. I was like, what is this lady talking about? Is that a soap opera? And, I asked my dad, and he goes, she wants to watch wrestling. And we didn't have a satellite dish. There was no CMLL or EMLL or anything. So it was like, I turned on wrestling, which then was WWF. And, I sat with her because I had to, and I watched wrestling. And at first, it's like, God. And then after a while, it's like, that's kind of cool. And then, it was Hulk Hogan's feud with Earthquake, and Dino Bravo was involved. It's like 1989. That's when it really turned around for me, where, all right, I want to watch this every week. And the first big giant show that I bought was Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior, WrestleMania 6, and I was rooting for the Warrior. I was like, I remember when I watched that thing live, I was 14 or something like that. My heart's thumping. Every time Warrior got covered, it's thumping. And, Warrior won, and boom, away we go. I was all in, started the YWF, started the newsletter, came, all of it is because, I'm afraid, Hulk Hogan. He was the guy. Never a fan, though, as a wrestler. You know what I'm saying? It was I wasn't, cheering for Earthquake, but I kind of was. Remember when Earthquake squashed Hulk Hogan on the Brother Love show?
Yeah.
I was delighted. I was so happy. Partly because I hated Hulk Hogan, and also partly because my sister loved Hulk Hogan, and she's crying. And they did that deal where you could write letters to Hulk Hogan, and they would send it to him after he was injured on the Brother Love show. And she wrote these sappy letters and sent them to Hogan. I was just howling, hoping this guy'd never come back, and of course he did. But he was a horrible, as a wrestler, his character. He was a baby face and everybody loved him. But this dude was constantly cheating. He's back raking dudes and he's punching people and he's choking them.
He got eliminated from the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and he pulled Sid out.
Pulled Sid over the top. The crowd is booing Hogan.
Yeah.
When he's supposed to be at his most popular.
Yeah, for those of you who don't remember.
Cheered by the crowd.
Yep.
In favor of Sid.
Yes, back then we watched these shows on pay-per-view, and then later the Coliseum home video release would come out. Well, live, Hogan pulls Sid out of this Royal Rumble, and Ric Flair helps toss him over to win, which, by the way, is one of the great Royal Rumbles. And
probably the best.
It wasn't the best. We wouldn't watch them again. There were better
ones.
But it was good. As far as a show-long storyline.
Too, You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
probably the most meaningful Royal Rumble of all time.
But anyway, these fans turned on Hogan. They are booing this guy like crazy. And I remember months later, I got like the Coliseum home video, and they edited out the booing. They edited in cheering. And as a young kid, I was like, wow, they're cheating. Just like that guy cheated. And then, by early 90, by 91, 92, like the people were getting sick of this guy. And then, he went on Arsenio and claimed that he never took steroids or whatever, and he lied. And then,
He choked out Richard Belzer, right?
Oh yeah, that was much earlier. That was a legit thing. Like he
With
was
a face lock.
Yeah, he was with Richard Belzer, and he decided he was going to show him like a guillotine. He showed him like a shoot
essentially.
guillotine, and he puts him in this guillotine and squeezes, and this guy goes unconscious and just voomp,
He
just
dropped him.
collapsed.
It was like when John Jones choked out Machida.
Yep, and he jumps up.
dropped him
And he's
face
got
first.
blood all over his face. He goes, "We'll be right back." And there was a lawsuit over that. But you know what? That was one of those deals where that got so much media that, I mean, had that not happened, like, who knows? They always tell the story about WrestleMania 1. Like, WrestleMania 1 was, like, kind of right on the cusp. Like, it could have failed and everything like that. I actually don't think it was going to fail, but like that Richard Belzer thing and obviously Mr. T getting involved, I mean, all of that was like a perfect storm, and whoosh, like away we go.
Yeah, well, later on, I mean, he had the Hollywood career, Santa with Muscles,
Oh, a bunch of horrible
Right.
movies. Yeah, God bless him, but terrible movies. Hideous.
Thunder in Paradise. Was that the show?
That was the
on
TV show, yeah.
TNT. And then one of my favorite memories, really before he started getting going again, was the triple cage match of doom, where he and Randy Savage took on the Dungeon of Doom,
Yeah.
Z Gangsta,
Yep.
who was Zeus from No Holds Barred.
Yeah.
Probably Hogan's. Was that Hogan's biggest film?
No Holds Barred?
Yeah.
I would say probably. He passed away due to COVID. Tiny Lister.
Zeus did.
Just
Wow.
a few years ago, yeah.
Earthquake's gone. Sid's gone.
Yep. He was in Rocky 3, obviously.
Big Boss Man,
Help.
longtime, rival, and I guess he was partner with Hogan, if I remember back to the late '80s a little bit too, and early '90s.
Who?
Big Boss Man.
Oh, Boss Man, yeah. The famous, I mean, that's another one. I mean, it's not quite as impressive as it sounds when I say it, but him and Big Boss Man had a feud in like 1988, 1989, and on like every show around I'm talking house shows, they did the superplex off the top of the cage. And what it really was like Boss Man would be sitting on the top of the cage and Hogan would stand on the top rope. And so it was really basically a superplex.
Boss Man would lay, he would lay,
Yeah.
almost like on the cage, so Hogan would grab him. So it's the same move from the same distance.
It was basically just like a top, but still, that's like, I'm not talking like a middle rope. I'm talking a tippy top rope superplex, night after night after night after night. And, we can't talk about Hogan also without talking about all the stories he told over the years. And, Hogan told so many stories, and it was always kind of like, does he believe that? Or is, you know what I'm saying?
Is he working us?
A good example is WrestleMania 3, okay? WrestleMania 3, I won't talk about attendance because I don't need the chat to blow up, but the thing with WrestleMania 3 is the story that Hogan always told was, and it's actually ironic because it's kind of like Hogan's final days. The story was, Andre was near death, and they had to drag him out of a hospital bed, basically, to do this match.
600 pounds.
And Hogan didn't know if he was going to lay down for him or not, like all of these stories. And, of course, it's all preposterous. Like, Hogan was always going to win the match, and Andre was not on his deathbed. He wrestled for like 5 years afterwards in WWE, like in big matches, including a much bigger match a year later. But like Hogan told all these stories, and he would always tell the same story. And it's funny because like, how can you keep telling the story that that Andre was near death at Mania 3, but like a year later you guys did that match on the main event that did 33 million viewers? And then, like, Andre kept going, and he wrestled, he had all those matches.
He was in the Colossal Connection.
Yeah, he had those matches with Warrior in, like, 1990 that were terrible, but, like, he was around. And so I always thought, like, is this guy, like, like he's so into this that he can't help himself and he believes these lies. And I don't know when it was, but I saw a couple of Hogan interviews, and this was when he was older too. And he would tell these stories, but he wouldn't tell the total BS stories. He would be like truthful. And so, he even told the story once. I forget when this was, but he did some interview somewhere. And he was like, when I step in the front door at home, I'm Terry Bollea. I'm just a dad. I'm just a guy. But as soon as I open that door to go out, I got to be Hulk Hogan. That's what everybody wants, is for me to be Hulk Hogan. So he goes like, I open the front door and there's the mailman.
No.
And I have to go, how's it going, brother? Because that's
Bryan,
what the mailman wants, yes?
I hate to stop you, but the best way to put it was how Hulk Hogan put it himself. Hulk Hogan has a 10-inch penis.
Oh,
Terry Bollea does not.
okay, the point is,
That's a direct quote.
I think that every time he was out of the house, he just knew this was what he needed to be. And if that included some preposterous story about WrestleMania 3 or, this or that, it's like he was just out there playing the hits. He was Elvis. I got to play the hits. I got to tell this silly story about Mania 3. I just can't believe that he actually believed these stories that he told. Some of them, maybe, you tell the story enough times, you do believe it. But I think that he was just...
He was going to be the bassist for Metallica.
Yeah, all of this stuff. It's like, he don't really...
George Foreman Grill was offered to him.
Yes! That one! I got the call, brother, but I wasn't there, so they gave it to Foreman. It's like, well, why didn't they give you another grill?
Party with John Belushi after Mania 2 in 1986 when John Belushi had been dead for years.
That one would have been difficult, undoubtedly. Any other good ones?
I mean, there's him talking about the Undertaker tombstoning him.
Oh my God, that's the greatest.
We have
the
video
greatest,
evidence.
Yeah, there was it was Tuesday in Texas or something like that, and the Undertaker gave him this tombstone on a steel chair. And they have the camera in the worst possible area to film this because you can just see he's 6 inches away from the ground when he gets tombstoned, okay? It's so fake, he's nowhere near the ground, okay? Well, Undertaker doesn't see this. So Undertaker goes backstage and Hogan's like, oh, brother, and he's selling that his neck was badly injured. And Undertaker believed for years that he hurt this guy. And Hogan never told him otherwise. And years later, Undertaker finally sees the video, and he's furious. He was nowhere near the ground. Back in a moment, Observer Live. Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful. We got a big Elimination Chamber report here. And also Collision from Saturday, which actually was a pretty damn good show in its own right.
I was not told to watch Collision.
Vinny?
I forgot to text him Thursday night. I figured he'd be in bed. I said I'd do it tomorrow. And then Friday I bought a car. I was busy, and I've been forgot. John comes out, looks into the camera, and says, "There's a vibe in here tonight."
Sure is.
I'll say. Punk's eyes are bugging out of his head. Seth is still there screaming, "Die, die!" And Seth gets his way. Punk dies. John Cena wins. I thought the finish of this was incredible. Great stuff.
God, Travis Scott. Jesus God almighty. This was exactly like when Hogan used to come to the ring, Dennis Rodman trailing him, and Dennis Rodman was on another planet. He had no idea where he was at, stumbling to the ring. He had basically have to drag him down there. This Travis Scott was on another planet, dude.
Well, the first time he was on the show was on that Raw show. He was smoking a blunt in the audience.
They go from the hug to a shot of Cena's angry heel face, and they cut right to Rock On. And then he kicks him right in the balls. And the crowd freaked out. The John Cena turned heel. Hulk Hogan, he was getting booed before he turned. It was a risk, but, they were getting sick of the guy anyway. The problem with Steve Austin was he was the top babyface, and there was nobody to replace him when he turned. John Cena's been gone forever. He comes back. It's not like he was going to be the top babyface. They got 50 babyfaces. Cody's the biggest babyface they got. There's no risk whatsoever turning John Cena heel. He's 10 times more interesting now. The Cena and Cody feud is 1,000 times more interesting.
Travis hit Cody Rhodes in the face as hard as he could. I bet that sucked.
This was a big deal, and
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming.
You guys need to listen to Observer Live on Friday
No thanks.
because some dude called in, all bombastic and outrageous.
Do y'all think that John Cena is going to be the one that turns heel and joins The Rock as his champion?
No chance. And I shot him down. I laughed at him.
Wow.
I said it's not going to happen. John Cena's here to sell tickets and merch as a babyface for his last year. He ain't turning heel.
They need to make shirts for John Cena that just say, "Can you see me now?"
I got to apologize to old Dwayne. I thought that guy was out of his mind. He got me. This is awesome. I cannot wait to see where they go here. Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We had a lot of people. And tomorrow on Observer Live, we're going to be back, and I have been absolutely flooded with emails, people's thoughts on Hulk Hogan. And so we're going to read a lot of those tomorrow, and probably for the near future, because he was the most famous American professional wrestler of all time, and he passed away. Dave Meltzer and I did a breaking news audio just before the show began, actually. For subscribers with some thoughts on Hulk Hogan and his legacy. It's only about 15 minutes. It was in the middle of a crazy morning. And this afternoon, I will be, I believe, on ABC News Live around 5 Eastern to talk Hogan. And perhaps NPR tomorrow morning as well, which I think is about 2:55 a.m. my time tonight. So that'll be a lot of fun. And some other things as well. I'll try to retweet all of them if you want to hear more about it. So, yeah, any final thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to leave you with some lyrics, Brian, from Hulkster in Heaven. When I climb back in the ring, I know we'll win this fight. I wish you were here at ringside to cheer me on tonight. The spotlight now grows dim, and now it's not on me. The prayers we've said together are still our guarantee.
All right, everybody. Hulk Hogan's wrestling boot ban. We didn't even talk about it, but that was another one. We got to wrap it up here for today. I want to thank you all for listening. We got a lot coming up, everybody. And maybe we'll have Tom on tomorrow. I guess we'll find out. If you want to go through some emails, Tom, it's up to you. I got like seemingly thousands here to try to go through. But that's it, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Wrestling Observer Live.